How's this date going?
Hello one and all, and welcome back to the channel. I am your host, The Big Rob Theory, and today we're going to be talking about a movie called Drop, directed by Christopher Landon, who was also a writer on the movie Freaky, Paranormal Activity from 2014, and also Hard Eyes. So I'm going to get right into it. The basic synopsis surrounds this woman named Violet, who's played by Megan Fahey. She's a widow, and her son, Toby, who's played by Jacob Robinson, they live together, and she hasn't been on a date in forever, and she finally gets to go on one with this guy named Henry, played by Brandon Skelenar. So her sister Jen, played by Violet Bean, who also is Jesse Quick in the Flash CW series, is one of my favorite TV series of all time, and you know, obviously it got convoluted towards the end, and all these other shows got convoluted. We'll talk about that. So she finally gets this restaurant, and she is greeted at the bar by this man named Richard, who is a seemingly nice guy, and he's nervous too because he's on a blind date, and we all know how those go, because one time or another we have been on some form of a blind date. Back in the day, it was very different with minimal to no technology. And now, obviously, we can swipe left and right on people, or just see them at a bar, or just see them online and connect with them online and meet up with them. It's a lot easier to meet people nowadays, but at the same time, it's more difficult because of the nature of social media and how people can be so wrapped up in themselves and their phone and just be so glued to a screen that they forget how basic, simple interaction between humans goes. So while they're sitting at the bar, she also meets this bartender there who's working named Kara, who's played by Gabrielle Ryan. She kind of gives her a little bit of a quote-unquote confidence boost, or just trying to talk to her a little bit. You'll have a great time, you look great. This stuff, typical bartender stuff that we would do for people, especially if we see that they're nervous and they seem nice. We finally meet up with the two main people that we're here to see, Violet and Henry, and they're at the table, and they seem to be hitting it off a little bit. She is getting all these threatening messages, and at first, it seems like it could be the date, or it seems like it could be somebody that was there. There was an interaction she had with a guy that was in that restaurant, and he was a twat. He was a twat waffle and a half. So my girlfriend and I, we're sitting there like, it's gotta be him. It's gotta be him. There's no way it's not. At a certain point, you actually feel like it might be the date too, just based off how when he leaves and comes back, you know, goes to the bathroom, and then the way how she's doing things, it's so weird how things play out. But I was pretty gripped. We were both pretty gripped because while this movie had its flaws, many flaws, it was still pretty good. It was still pretty engaging. And honestly, I will say the most engaging part about the movie for me was the camera work. The way how the cinematography was, the way how he captured certain shots. They had kind of like a Hitchcock feel to them, if you will. If you're a Hitchcock fan, then you know like there's certain camera angles and certain camera pans that he does in his movies. And the way how Landon directed this and his cinematography work was actually beautiful. That's what kept me engaged the whole time. It was just the way how he panned to certain things, panned to certain people, the angles from the table, you know, looking at her phone and then looking at the date. It's just the way how it was shot, that for some reason it just really spoke to me. And even the music in the movie was pretty good too. There was a shot closer to the end with Henry and Violet. I'm not going to give away too much, but there was a shot closer to the end where it's kind of circling them a little bit in a weird way, and the sound is a little different, and just the way and the nature of the filming of that really got me invested too, and I'm like, wow, this is great. I love this shot. It's beautiful. Throughout the course of the night, Violet is supposed to take care of this guy, but at the same time, she can't tell him, she can't let him know, she can't inform him that she's being harassed. Otherwise, her kid and her sister might get killed or worse. And yes, there are fates worse than death. We find out that this anonymous person wants to get the camera from Henry. So it's very interesting how slowly throughout the night we figure out, okay, so there's obviously a scandal. This person is might get blackmailed or whatever the case is. So who is this guy? As I said, there are some flaws in the film, and I think that the film was a little bit rushed. You know, it's only an hour and 35 minutes, but for the nature of this, I feel like it was a little bit rushed, but it was still good. There were some elements that could have been fleshed out a little more. They could have done a little bit better with the villain himself. This whole scene and snippet with him and Violet, and her going to the bartender, and the bartender kind of picking up on some things, but not really. But it's just that typical service industry bartender vibe, a woman in distress or anybody in distress, and you can kind of pick up on things. There's this whole big battle at the end, and the way how things happen and transpire, they could have been done a little bit better. They could have done a little bit better with the execution of Violet, Henry, and the villain. They could have done some better exposition when it came to the injuries with some people, like, you know, somebody's injured on the floor and then someone says you're gonna be fine, and it's like, I'm basically like bleeding out and you're not putting any pressure on it, but okay, yeah, I'm gonna be fine. There's little things like that I'm like, you know, that could have been better. Overall, personally for me, I know a lot of people, I've seen reviews online, I've seen critics talk about it, and they said that it was kind of underwhelming and it was not really that believable and all these other things, and I can agree to some extent. You cannot deny the great nature of the directing of this film, as in the cinematography, the camera work, the chemistry, and the basic nature of the story. Is actually a really good story and actually a really good premise and a really good concept. Some of the steps to get to the plot point, the true plot point, and to the precipice of what's happening, it could have been done better. And I feel like we kind of did too much of like oh, you gotta do this and then that, and then this and then that, or this or that. It seemed a little too drawn out for like the time, you know, we could have done a little bit more. But at the same time, it was still an enjoyable movie. I mean, we were hooked. We wanted to watch it right away after we saw it. Actually, I think we actually watched it the next day again because it was so good. So thank you so much for joining me for this review. I hope that you enjoyed your time while you were here. If you did get to check this movie out, please let me know what you thought about it, whether you were on the same side as most of the critics saying that it was kind of blah and generic, or if you're kind of on the side with us, like this was very enjoyable despite its flaws, which it had many flaws, but it was still enjoyable and still a good film. You know the drill. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and the bell next to it so you can get a notification anytime there's a new video. Thanks again for watching. Until the next one.